Hello guys, my name is Marco and this is my first video in which I'm going to show you how you should properly DPS with Assassination Rogue. First I'm going to talk about stats, gear and relics, my legendaries overall, which is the best for certain situation. Afterwards I'm going to talk something about talents and logs. Then I'm going to talk about pre-potting, which you should use and when. Then we'll finally get into the real deal, the rotation on one target and multiple targets. Most important stat for Assassination Rogue is critical strike chance, and you should aim to have 40% critical strike chance. I have 38 at the moment, but with full buff I get 40%, and which should be your goal. After that, second most important stat is mastery, and you should have 100% mastery if you're running agonizing poison, because mastery increases the effectiveness of your agonizing poison. Next up we have haste, and haste is pretty much irrelevant for Assassination Rogue. And last stat is versatility, and versatility is pretty important stat for Assassination Rogue, especially after 110% mastery and 40% crit, when versatility becomes most valuable stat of all. So with gear you should aim for 40% critical strike chance and 110% mastery. I have a helm from Dragons of Nightmare, my neck is from Trash Mobs in Emerald Nightmare, my shoulders are from Ilginot, my back is quite bad, it's actually from Weekly Chest. It's the only item with haste that I could swap. Next up I have chest from Maw of Souls, which is actually really good. I got my bracers from Mythic plus 12 chest. My gloves are actually from the first week of Mythics. They're dropped from God King Skullwald in Halls of Valor. My belt is from Nitendra. I got Mythic legs from Ursok. And now here goes the legendaries. Well, I can't complain about my legendary luck, cause at the moment I have 4 legendaries and I didn't really play a lot, so I got really lucky with Blizzard's RNG. I got boots and ring for assassination, and they're both of them are in 3 best legendaries. Like, you can't say which is the best legendary for assassin, it all depends on the fight. I got Will of Valera, and that's a pretty sucky legendary. It can be good for progressing, but I like to DPS, so I'm not wearing them. And now Braided Silver Ring, it's from Eye of Ashara. I actually have all kinds of rings which have more item level than it, but I needed versatility. Now Memento of Angerboda, you should really farm for it, and Bloodthirsty Instinct. I'm using 2 RNG trinkets because if you get lucky no one can top you in DPS, but you can always use consistent trinkets, stat trinkets, and Eye of Command is the best trinket. But there are plenty of other stat trinkets which are good, like from Guarm or Halls of Valor or Unstable Arcano Crystal. Now my artifact weapon, it has pretty low item level, only 900, but it's all because of relics, because you need Master Assassin relics, and there are only few in game and only 1 drops in raid. So for Shadow I have 860 from Karazhan. I'm trying to get a better one, but RNG doesn't like me with relics. You could also get Shadow Relic from Vault of the Wardens. Now Iron Relic, I got it from Nightbane, and it's Warforged, so I'm pretty happy with it. The other Iron Relic is from Vault of the Wardens, so 2 relics in Vault of the Wardens. And last one is from Helia Blood Relic, and you can get Blood Relic also from Blackrook Hold. Now legendaries. So Assassination is pretty good with legendaries because there are 5 viable legendaries. First off, we have Cloak, and Cloak is the best legendary actually for Nitendra and Alaret, just because of all the ads. Like in Dominate Mind, you can just do one fan of Nice and everyone is out, and for Alaret, for the spiders. The belt is pretty good stat-wise, and it's really good on Dragons of Nightmare because they're stacked at the start. Boots are in one of the 3 best legendaries with Ring and Bracers, and the longer the fight, the better they are. Insignia of Ravenhold is, if you ask me, the best legendary because it's best for Outlaw, Assassination and Sub. You just need to position yourself right when there are ads so it hits everyone. Cephus Secret is pretty bad because it gives haste. If it would give Mastery or something, it would be great. Will of Valera is actually good on progression bosses, but it has trash stats, so I don't like it. And now we have Bracers. Bracers are really good, especially if your guild dies in the last phase and you manage to kill the boss, because the execute phase will be much longer and therefore your DPS will be really higher. And the last legendary is trash. It has good stats, but it's overall really bad. At the moment, for the first tier, you should use Elaborate Planning. It's better than Master Poisoner, but Master Poisoner will be better in 7.1.5. For second tier, I'm using Night Stalker, but I would say that Subterfuge is better for some fights, like Dragons of Nightmare, because you start with 2 dragons, so 2 Garrets, and vanish into 2 Garrets. I only tested it on dummies, but in worst case scenario it gave 800k more damage than a Night Stalker. So I don't know about that. I'll test it this week on Dragons of Nightmare, so I'll post you guys. Third tier upper stratagem, Vigor should be better in 7.1.5. Cheat that for tier 4, and tier 5 is actually anything you want. For tier 6 you should go for Agonizing Poison. It requires a lot of mastery, but overall it's a lot better than other 2 talents. And lastly we have Venom Rush, and it isn't even debatable. Now, pots and pre-potting. You should always use Potion of Prolonged Power for progression bosses, because Potion of Old War costs tons more than Potion of Prolonged Power, but Potion of Old War just gives so much more damage than Potion of Prolonged Power. Especially if you get lucky with RNG and you get a Poison Bomb proc from the Bag of Tricks trait, because Bag of Tricks trait or Poison Bomb ticks really fast and really benefits the Old War potion. And for normal rotation there are 2 openers. I prefer the first opener. First off, you start with Garrett. After Garrett you press Mutilate, into Rupture, into Mutilate, Vendetta, Kingsbane, and Venom, Mutilate, Mutilate, till 6 combos, then Vanish, Rupture, and then you just continue with your normal rotation, which consists of constantly keeping Rupture on your target and Garrett on your target. Use your Envenom at least 3 comma points to keep your Elaborate Planning constantly up. And to maximize your DPS, you should use your next Envenom on 0.few seconds left on your Elaborate Planning buff, because your Envenom will do 15% more damage and will refresh the buff. Now I'm going to show you how I do it, and you should keep your eye for one more thing. It's your Vendetta debuff on the target. and you should see when it's expiring, so you could use your last envenom on it, so it does 20% more damage and plus 15% more damage from elaborate planning, like this. So basically playing assassination is keeping Rupture and Garrot and your elaborate planning constantly up. You're using your Vendetta off cooldown and Kingsbane off cooldown. Because I have my boots, I'll usually get my Vendetta up with Kingsbane, but if you have free Master Assassin Relics, you should wait with your Kingsbane to go with Vendetta, because it will give the most damage out of it. And one last thing, you're supposed to use your Vanish when you have 6 combo points and your Rupture has 8.5 seconds left on its timer, and the Rupture duration of your buffed Rupture will be the longest. So second opener is a little bit different than the first one. You start off with Garrot into 1 point Rupture, then you hit Mutilate, Vendetta, Mutilate, Kingsbane, Vanish, Rupture. And if you get lucky enough to have 6 combo points after 2 Mutilates, you use Vanish, Rupture, and afterwards you use Kingsbane. And then you just continue with your normal rotation. The only difference between these two openers is that the first one has a bit longer burst but smaller damage burst, and the second one has bigger damage burst but has lower duration. DPSing on 2 targets. You choose one of your rotations, but again I prefer to use this first one. So the only difference between the rotations is that on my first 6 combo points I don't use Envenom, I Rupture the second target and everything stays the same after it. And after my Vendetta is over, I quickly swap to the other target and get 5 stacks of my Agonizing Poison, so that my Rupture does the most damage. After that part, just maintain your poisons and bleeds and focus on one target when Vendetta is up. DPSing on multiple targets as Assassin Rogue is quite easy. You just need to do your Fan of Knives until you have 6 combo points, and then you just Rupture all the targets around and keep your Garrot on one target. Thing is, your Venom Rush talent gives you so much energy back that you can just spam all of your abilities, but for multiple targets fights you should use Outlaw Spec, because it gives way more damage than Assassination, and at the moment I'm using my Outlaw Spec for almost every fight, just because I got a broken Legendary, and I'll talk about it more in the next video, and I'll have one video talking about Warcraft logs. If you liked my first video, please give me a thumbs up, I really appreciate it, and subscribe if you want. Also, my plan is to make a DPS guide on all of the bosses in Emerald Nightmare for melee DPS classes, and until my next video, take care.